Hi and welcome to this video where we will look into as-built data and how you as a construction surveyor can use and gather it. But before we go any further, let's have a look at what as-built data actually is. So Anders Forsell, what is as-built data?
As-built data, that is something you receive when you collect information about something that has been made or has been built. Quite often you do it with a rover. So basically when a certain task has been done, you show up with your rover, you measure a couple of points to verify, and that is then brought into the office, and you bring it into your office software and you create some kind of design out of that based on your measurements.
But now that we have installed 3D machine control on the machines, we're actually able to collect the as-built data from the machines.
Yeah, that's true. So basically the same task that you do on your rover, you can also do it straight in the machine.
And how does it work? How does as-built data work?
It works in a way that instead of me putting my peg down or putting the tip of my pole down on the point I want to measure, I will use the bucket, for example, or the blade on the grader or dozer, and that will pick up the data. And you can do it in different ways, very similar to how you do it on your rover, but you do it in the machine instead. So let's say if you have an area where you're going to do a volume calculation. Let's say it's a dig out in, let's say, difficult terrain. So maybe it's full of water, or you just can't walk there as a surveyor. Then you can do it with a machine instead. So the surveyor doesn't have to go out there in his rubber dinghy or something and find some measurement to bring down. You can do it straight from the machine with the same accuracy.
And as a surveyor, it's very important that you understand how the operator can actually log these as-built points. And there are 3 different ways to do it. Let's have a look at how those 3 different ways work.
If we now look in the machine on the panel, from the run screen where it's working, he has a button in the bottom right-hand corner with a small arrow on. And the button itself, that is your logging button. But to do the setup of what and how you want to log, you press and hold on that icon, and you will have 3 different options here. Either single point logging, auto point logging, or surface logging. You can always apply a point code to the point you want to log, and a point code that can be representing an object, let's say some details of what it is you're actually logging. Single point logging. If I pick that one and tap the log point, that will be 1 point that will be stored every time I tap the log point. Auto point logging will log automatically on either a time or a distance interval. And surface logging, that is more covering a whole surface of logging while you're digging. The setting you do is done with this small icon in the top right corner. So now we are in single point logging, and here I can select what tool point I want to use, left, right or center. And when I've done that, I accept, and now I'm back in my run screen, and every time I tap this button here, there will be a point code, and the point is logged. I can revert it if I would regret my logging, but then I do it immediately. Secondly, if I go for auto point logging and I go to my settings here, on the auto point logging, I can select multiple points on my tool. So both left, center and right at the same time, for example. I can also set up either between a distance or a time interval between my logged points. So if I apply a distance, for example 5 meters, when I move my machine, every 5 meters there will be an automatic logging of my position of my tool points. And finally, on the surface logging, I can visualize what I've been logging. So depending on the settings you have here, they will impact on what happens when I press the button in my run screen. The data afterwards will be transferred by going to your sync page. And if you are connected to Connex, you will sync it from here, or if you want to do it with a USB stick instead, You select USB and you press sync, and all the data you have stored will be transferred to USB sync. There is a limitation, however, on the USB sync, and that is that the surface logging data will not be transferred to the USB sync. So for surface data logging, it requires that you have a Connex connection, because that will be automatically logged to the Connex cloud to be aggregated afterwards within the Connex solution.
Cool, let's have a look at how it could look like if the machines were actually running.
Well, there's been a lot of effort to mimic exactly what you see on the Connex project, again seen through to the MC1 panel, and here you'll see an exact duplicate to stop any errors or anything missed within the project management. If we see the panel here for the MC1 side, we'll go into the project in the drop down menu and select models, and this is an exact duplicate of what your Connex project would have, even to the point of having a folder with some sub-elements in there or sub-surfaces, right through to everything you have. So it looks exactly the same workflow as you'd expect to see on Connex.
So as you can see, it is quite easy to log these as-built points, and as a construction surveyor, it is a quite efficient tool for you to use. Thank you for watching this video.